don't have permission.
No.
Oh.
Okay. Thank you. Thank
Okay.
You.
All right. Thank
Okay.
you.
Well, I said we can get started. It is my absolute great pleasure to introduce Reginé, who she's a professor at NYU. That's where we met. But she's also an awesome human being and an amazing researcher, academic. She spent some time in June with us here at the Center for Digital Music, so she may be a familiar face to many of you. And now she's back in Europe because, you know, you move all over the place. Next stop, Mexico, right?
See.
Yes. So, she's going to tell us about how some of her research and thoughts on what AI cannot hear. And without further ado, take it away. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Hi, everybody. So I apologize. I'm not standing because I have I badly stubbed my toe and it's injured. So I am not standing for you all. So if you can't see me, I'm still here. Thank you all for being here. It's an honor to be here. Thank you, Iran. Thank you for your presence. So I am Reginé Gilbert. I'm a systems strategist, author, NYU professor, and I am talking about what AI can hear, human judgment and accessible audio design. So I just have to make sure, because I had moved stuff around, that I have my speaker notes here. And sorry for the folks online, I'm gonna probably be looking this way a little bit because of the audience is here, you also are here, so I'll make sure to look in both places. Okay, so we're here for about an hour, just so everyone knows. If you have to leave, fine, that's fine as well. So I'm going to treat this hour as a conversation and not as a presentation, okay? Because as a professor, I don't like to talk at my students. As a public speaker, I don't like to talk at audiences. I really like participation because you learn by doing, you don't learn by just, you're not a tree, right? Like, so you learn by doing. So you're not my audience today, you're my collaborators. So here's the agenda. First, talk about the elevator, what AI can't hear a scream, can't hear an accent, when AI hears you too well, what we already know, when it becomes life or death, laying out the process, and closing reflection. So 11. Some of you may or may not know this, but I have a clip here.
What's the buttons?
Oh no, they installed voice recognition technology in this lift. I heard about this.
Voice recognition technology in a lift in Scotland. You ever tried voice recognition technology?
No.
They don't do Scottish accents.
11.
Could you please repeat that?
11.
11. 11.
11.
Could you please repeat that?
11.
Whose idea was this? You need to try an American accent. 11. 11.
That sounds Irish, not American.
What, doesn't it?
11. Where in America is that? Dublin?
I'm sorry. Could you please repeat that?
Try an English accent, right?
11. 11. You for the same part of England as Dick Van Dyke?
So that's just a little clip. It's kind of part of my inspiration for this presentation. But what if the elevator was the only way anyone could hear you? What if that elevator was the only way anyone could hear you, but it couldn't understand you?
It would be tough.
Probably.
I guess is that short or is that pretty recent?
No, it's not recent. I mean, not that recent, but.
It's like the Scottish.
Say that again.
It's like a Scottish member of Parliament, I think, or like in the Parliament, there's like a Scottish individual who's advocating for disability rights, and like whoever was the leader of the session, I don't know the structure. I'm sorry, everyone. like there is like a bill about advocating for disability rights, and they had a man who had a big Scottish accent discussing the bill, and the guy was English and he couldn't understand his own language.
Okay,
And
so just for,
it was based on that.
no, that it's older than that. So for the folks online who couldn't hear, someone in the audience was saying that there was a recent incident where there was a member of parliament who was who was Scottish, and they were speaking on behalf of rights for people with disabilities, and they were not being understood by the people who were around them because of their accent. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So I want to talk about what AI can't hear. So this will be broken out into sections. So for example, a scream. It hears the sound, not the situation. An accent trained on a narrow model user. Who's it trained on?
The American.
Any Americans in the room besides me? Yeah, who else? Who's American? Yeah, okay, just two. Okay.
American bias.
American bias. Its own uncertainty. It doesn't say, I don't know. It gives you an answer that sounds right. Has anyone had any sort of experience where, let's say, a generative AI has said, I don't know?
Maybe after like the fourth insistence.
More and more recently, I find that Claude does tell me like, you know, and I actually don't know.
Or like, you're right to call me out on that.
Okay.
I did that more recently, yeah.
Probably
After
like
the fourth or fifth time.
Yeah, let's maybe do the raising the hand.
Yeah, back here.
It told me.
Which system?
It was Claude.
Claude.
It didn't know about the specific, let's say, thing I was asking, but it found something that it thought it was relevant, and it was.
Okay, so it,
Yeah,
yeah,
and then I checked it. So the thing I was asking was very new, so it was probably it happened.
okay,
It's training, whatever.
Yeah.
Whereas the other thing was 2 or 3 years old, so it's probably part of its training.
yeah, great. Sorry, you had your hand raised.
One of the things I was gonna say is like, when it does slightly admit to not knowing, there's always a secondary comment, like, you're right to push back on that. So it's like, kind of like a form of like literary gaslighting is how I interpret it.
Okay.
It may, and I think about that often.
How often does AI gaslight you? Should be my next question.
How
Yeah.
often do you feel gaslit?
Yes. So a lot of what I read for this was a Stanford report on AI, and 50.1%, the same model that won a gold medal at the International Mathematical Olympiad reads an analog clock correctly just 50.1% of the time. Humans score 90.1%, and researchers call this the jagged frontier. So I want to talk a minute about the missing ramp. For decades, accessibility was a ramp added after the building was already built. We see this a lot here because there's a lot of older buildings. And AI risks becoming the new missing ramp, assumed to solve access problems that, without human oversight, it quietly creates. It tests against a model user that most real users simply aren't. And I wrote about this in the first chapter of my second edition of Inclusive Design for a Digital World, where I called AI the missing ramp, in part because many data sets do not include people with disabilities. So can't hear a scream.
But can you elaborate on what you mean by AI being the missing ramp? Like you're saying that AI has a missing ramp, or AI is the missing ramp?
What I meant by that are the data sets that are behind the AI is the missing ramp because they do not include people with disabilities. Yep. So same sound, opposite meaning. A scream at a party is typically fun. A scream in an empty garage is an emergency, potentially. A detector that classifies the sound in isolation gets the sound right and the meaning wrong. a different kind of voice. Someone from the Mississippi Delta speaking the way generations before them spoke. Are folks here familiar with the Southern accent? Yes, yes, okay. For me, my family is from New Orleans, and when I would go visit them when I was young, the way I say ambulance is ambulance. The way they say ambulance is ambulance. And I came back to California going, oh, there's an ambulance. And my friends were like, what the heck are you talking? I was like, an ambulance, right? So there are different types of, speaking depending on where people are from. Someone speaking African-American vernacular English, a dialect with its own grammar, has its own rhythm and history. Someone who learned English as a second language, still carrying the sounds of their first, okay? There's 3 different origins here, one shared experience, not being understood, oftentimes. So a quick show of hands, who here has ever had a voice AI misunderstand them? Yeah? What did it say? You hear? What did you say?
Oh, I'm not sure I think very example. I don't know. I think my accent's slightly weird because I grew up in the north, in Sheffield, and now I'm primarily here.
Mm-hmm.
So it's sort of a weird mix of. So I don't think my accent fits into any one group either. I can't think of an example where it has this first. It's just general throughout all my verbal communication.
What device specifically didn't understand you?
Well, I used Gemini.
Gemini. So this is a Northern England English accent that's combined with London accent, and you felt misunderstood. Yeah? Anyone else raise their hand? Yes.
I mean, I've had certain words, like if I've been dictating to it, and certain words or names where I've been just completely lost, and then you have to go back and correct. And I'm familiar too, right? Because that's what we receive pronunciations of. So,
Okay.
but even then, it seems to be tailored to American voices as well.
Interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I more and more like to talk to Claude or Gemini, and I find that so if I do ASR on the iPhone, automatic speech recognition on the iPhone, just to text someone, I find that it's significantly better than the speech recognition that Claude has built in or that Gemini has built in. And at the beginning of my prompts, when I'm talking to it, I'm like, by the way, all of this is automatic speech recognition. So make sure you read between the words, because there's many words that you get wrong. And then it comes with my Mexican accent, the fact that it's a different ASR system. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I want to use voice recognition technology, but I don't trust the companies that create it, so I don't use it.
Okay. And there you have it. Trust. So there are receipts when it comes to this, right? Alexa and Google Home understood Spanish speakers meaningfully less often than the assumed default user. Across 5 commercial systems, Black speakers were misunderstood nearly twice as often as white speakers. And same root cause both times. The data used to teach these systems was never built from the full range of how people actually talk. So my early finding with my research is that this may go beyond underrepresentation. Some languages, including many indigenous languages, aren't meaningfully present on the internet at all. A harder problem than a skewed data set. So question for everyone, how many official languages are there in Mexico?
Wait, what are you looking at? There's
a
fellow Mexican.
Also doesn't know.
I am also from Mexico, by the way, so.
Officially zero, right?
So when you think of Mexico, what language do you think of? Spanish. Okay, what's another language spoken in Mexico? But to my two Mexicans here, what's another language spoken in Mexico?
Otomi. Otomi.
Oh, and there's another somebody. Who's that?
Yeah, it's me.
It's me.
Yeah.
It's Anna.
Yeah, well, actually, I just Googled it, and there are 68 and 364 variants. So, yeah.
Okay,
a
so
lot.
68 and 300. Yeah, so it's close to what I found, and people can fact check me on this. So I found that there was 292 languages from the Summer Institute of Linguistics, 68 languages with 364 variants from the National Institute of Indigenous Languages. So a lot of these are not online, right? Which is interesting. So when we think about this, I'm going to switch to two populations with nothing in common, and this is from Sarabi's research, who looked at English speakers with dysphagia, neurological speech impairment, one path into failure. Persian speakers, fluent, clean, standard speech, a completely different path into the same failure. A speaker who stutters says, drink fresh water, whisper, transcribes, available now. Clean English audio, whisper outputs, Chinese characters reading, thanks for watching. Right? So we're seeing that because the data isn't there, it's not picking up on certain things, right? So speakers did not fail to communicate, the model failed to listen, and it failed the same way twice for entirely different reasons. When AI hears you too well. So it's just out of control. This is what Cher said when someone, does everybody know who Cher is in this room? Do you believe in life after love? Yeah, Cher, the singer.
Yeah.
So someone used AI they took Cher's voice to do a Madonna song. She was not very happy with that because she has spent her whole life, I mean, she's been a performer since she was like 18 years old. She's in her 70s at this point. So she spent decades working on her craft. I mean, her voice is her voice. It's a very unique one. And she was saying, she talked about how AI vocals trained on her voice, it's not right from her perspective. And for a lot of artists, it's not right? And we're seeing issues around this quite a bit. So my early finding is reactions to AI generated music split within the same household, right? One person's freedom is another's discomfort at a machine mediating human expression, possibly generational, right? And it's worth testing against the rise of AI artists on streaming platforms. So I recently came across a website that listed a bunch of AI artists, and I shared it with my friends, I shared it with my assistant, and my assistant was like, he's young, and he's like, I like this. Whereas like my friend who's older was like, I don't like this. And so is it a generational thing? Are younger people okay with AI? We don't know, because that is yet to be discovered. Did somebody say something online?
Well, I just wanted to say that I've seen that a noticeably worse opinion about AI artists among, people of my age and younger. They usually are like completely against it. So I will say that I had like the opposite view. I was like, I think that older people like it a little bit more. I don't know, but yeah, that's just my perspective.
Okay. Yeah, we're all different. I don't know. Everybody has their own opinions on it. Okay. I'm not a fan. Like, I love music, so I think that, I mean, I have, like, I did a presentation a few years back in Singapore where I made a song. It was for Singapore Design Week, and I made a song using Suno for my audience. It was so cheesy, but they liked it, right? They liked it because I was like, oh, and I think I made, it was like a rap. That wasn't very good, in my opinion.
Part of my question, just like, do you feel that way regardless of whether or not the lyrics, like local lyrics, are?
So you're asking the question.
Like, I love listening to instrumental music.
Okay.
Without voices, but still sometimes I think that's how it's AI generated.
So.
And it makes me not feel things. Sometimes I feel things and I'm like, I'm sure this is AI generated. It still makes me feel it.
Okay.
But with AI generated vocal influences, I feel like there can be more polarized.
Okay, so for the folks online, the question was about, I think, me liking, do I like AI vocal or AI instrumental? And I don't know, to be honest. What I do know is nothing to me compares to live music. Nothing makes me feel emotions like live music. I recently saw Benito in person, right? Benito performed. For those who don't know, who knows who Benito is here in the room? Who is Benito? That is right, Bad Bunny, okay? Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. You better know. So listen, I cried, right? I am a big Bad Bunny fan, and there are certain musical artists. There's a woman in particular. Her name is Lisa Fisher. There's no one who could make my skin raise like her, right? And that's something that happens, right? There are people who study this, like they look to see when you hear music, what happens to your skin, right? That's an observation. Sorry, you had your hand raised.
Just like the other. You know, we asked whether people like AI-generated music or not. But something else that blew my mind recently is I just saw on the Reddit that some people now are using AI to generate music, but they are full-blown musicians, and then they learn the songs from. So like they're playing live, and they're performing and recording things that came out completely from AI.
That's fascinating. So for those who maybe couldn't hear Iran, he was saying that there are musicians who are having AI generate music, then they're learning that music and then performing it. Now that's a whole other, I don't even know what, but not this research. So in 2023, an AI generated Drake and The Weeknd track was submitted for Song of the Year and Best Rap Album, then disqualified when the vocals were found never cleared by the artist, right? And under EU law, training data can legally be mined unless the artist opts out first. However, silence is treated as permission. Isn't that a fun fact? Right?
I would think that was US law, but
that is
being EU law is a little.
So your own voice, sometimes personal data, sometimes a narrow trademark, is never comprehensively protected, right? So this is something I think about within the accessibility world, where let's say someone gets diagnosed with Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS, and they decide, if they know they have ALS, some folks will start to do what they call voice banking. And voice banking is where you record your voice so that it is available when you lose your voice, right? And there's a company who, I think they're EU company, I can't remember the name, but they did a lot of, I forget which country it was, but in this particular country, all their films were dubbed by the same people. It was like the same man and woman were doing every film. And these two young guys were like, we can't stand it. There has to be another way. So they started using AI to provide different voices. I'll have to look it up and find it. But they also got into voice banking for people with Lou Gehrig's disease as well. But there's something to be said about what we can and cannot do. So what we already knew. I want to talk about the bystander effect before AI. Anybody here familiar with the bystander effect? So the bystander effect came about really after, sadly, Kitty Genovese in 1964 was murdered outside of her building. In 1964, the New York Times reported that 38 witnesses did nothing. This became because one person assumed the next person would call, the next person assumed the next person would call, right? This kind of thing happened. Years later, the New York Times came out and said it was very much exaggerated. It wasn't that many people that heard. But in recent times, we've seen this pattern repeat with Cassine Morris in 2019. Bystanders recorded on Snapchat instead of calling for help, and this young person was killed, right? And so an uncomfortable question for anyone doing work in artificial intelligence these days, when researchers build data sets that leave out whole populations, aren't we bystanders too? Not for you to answer, but for you to think about. So when it becomes life or death. 2 separate studies, 1 warning. So a whisper-based tool has been used to transcribe an estimated 7 million medical visits. I see some heads nodding as to what this is. And in a separate study, 38% of whispers hallucinated outputs contained explicit harmful content, fabricated violence, invented associations, false authority. The most dangerous answer in accessibility is the one that sounds right. Gaslighting. So 233 to 362 documented AI incidents, 2024 to 2025. Improving one responsible AI dimension like safety can degrade another like accuracy. So we have to look at the cause and effect to things. When you fix one thing, something else might get broken. How do we prevent that from happening? One of the things that I've seen people not doing is assessing risk when they're doing any sort of project. And I don't even care if it's something you think, I'm doing this for the good of the world. Because as a famous philosopher once said, when ships were invented, so were shipwrecks. So to me, anything that you are working on carries risk with it, even when you think, and even when your intention is good. Not for debate. No, not for debate. But you had a comment, sorry. Yeah.
The thing that it's how is like regulating companies with sort of improve like the companies use feedback to improve their models of profit.
So the question is one I cannot answer. The question from the audience is how can we regulate these companies with the feedback that is being received? I do not have an answer for that because I'm not a policy maker. And when the technology is moving faster than policy, which it is at this current pace, then it becomes very difficult. The only way that we see significant change ever come is from the actual users themselves when they say, we're not dealing with this stuff. We're not gonna put up with it. We haven't reached that point yet, but when with certain things, people say, I'm not doing that. And then the company has to change. But if it doesn't really start there and there isn't anyone on the top who's actually looking at it, then change becomes really difficult from what I've seen. I hope that sort of answers your question. Yeah. Okay. So laying out the process, I mean, many of you already know this, but there are people in the room who are not as familiar, right? And I just want to say that my early finding is that the honest driver behind these gaps may be economic, not technical. Deployment costs outrunning proven returns. On faith, that scale will just justify itself later, but this needs further investigation. You look confused. Are you? Are you just making a face? I'm just, yeah.
I don't know.
Okay. Okay.
But I mean, there's an irony there, right? In the sense that the reason why many of these AI systems have, or I want to believe, but now I'm second guessing myself, that the reason why these AI systems have a free version was because in the 90s, we identified what was described as the digital divide, and that we needed to be proactive, good citizens to avoid that. So then anyone with a device that has internet access should be given access to any sort of latest breaking, cutting edge tool. Just with the browser. That's why the browser enables you to access ChatGPT or Shazam or all of these things, right? But at the same time, if you have a free tool, then you're free to let that be as biased and as gaslighting as you want, because it's not part of your profit model. The profit model then becomes the interest of the bigger companies that are going to be paying for your tokens, your APIs. So it's really this digital divide accessibility that is just built in the way many of these companies operate. It's a disguise for masking the bigger biases that are being built into these systems.
Yeah. So for those who maybe couldn't hear Iran, he said a bunch of things, but the point, and I'll try to sum it up what you just said, that we in the 90s the digital divide was discovered, right? And that there was this kind of democratic open field to like, oh, if you have internet, you can access these things. However, when you access things for free, oftentimes you become the product, right? And therefore the bias and other things and such that are built in, you have no choice but to use those. And the only way to kind of avoid using those kind of things is if you pay to play. So a good example of that is if you have an iPhone, right? And there are certain features on the iPhone that you could have where you can block spam calls, you can do certain things. Whereas if you have maybe an Android device that is an older model, you're not able to do these kind of things, right? So in order to have certain privilege, certain privacies, oftentimes you have to pay to play for those things. Sorry, I saw a hand over here raised. Yeah?
It's not exactly on the same issue, but I'm thinking a little bit on the. So let's think about the following. Before AI, in order to have access to research, whatever it is, you will need to go through a long process, not only of learning languages, for example, most in English, but also learning the jargon of specific disciplines and so on. Now, thanks to AI, we're able to de-jargon things, for example, like I'm able to go take a neuroscience paper, and of course it's not going to be very exact in everything, but it's going to give you the gist of what's going on in a paper that 2 years ago I wouldn't have been able to read with my current knowledge, right?
Right.
So there is this component in which, yeah, at the same time that it is kind of perhaps flattening languages to a certain extent,
yeah.
Right? It's more homogenizing languages, but at the same time, it's also allowing for this kind of communication across languages. So now my mom, she can read what I write without necessarily having to speak perfect English, because she can just put it into ChatGPT. And it's going to give her a translation, which is not going to be the best translation, but it's going to be good enough. So I wonder if this is just a matter of time. It's a matter of time that at some point when people perhaps don't feel the need, as we felt it when we were younger, you have to learn English. You have, because if you don't do it, there's no way, there's no place for you in the academic market, there's no place for you in the world, basically. I feel that if you're now 15 years old, 12 years old, you might not have that strong need that we have, because systems, a current AI system, with their many issues and whatever, they allow you to just maintain your language, for example, and have access to a lot of things through your own language. So the logical thing is that in the future, then this will develop into basically people saying, well, okay, now there's a competition between which AI system faster develops better understanding of the nuances of each language. So perhaps this flattening that we're seeing right now, it's kind of just the very first step towards a more, focalized understanding of differences. For example, sorry, I already overextended here, but one thing that I saw which kind of made me very happy is that right now there was this analysis, I think it was in The Economist, where they show that the top 50 songs of each country are now songs where mostly the songs are in the language of the country.
Mm.
So we see that in Denmark, we see that in Mexico. When I was 50 years old, the top 50 were Backstreet Boys. So it was, and that's everywhere in the world. So my feeling is that, even though we focus a lot on the commoditization of things, the world is actually going through a direction in which people are starting to see the value in their own language and their own cultures. And my feeling is that this can only develop into an even more fine-grained knowledge. Sorry. So
That's okay. So I don't know if the folks online heard that or not, but I just want to sum up what you said, that you basically said you can take a paper that's about neuroscience, put it into generative AI, have it translate into plain language for you to understand. When you write something that is potentially technical, your mom can put that into ChatGPT and understand it in a layperson's terms. You're saying at this current time, we're kind of at a juncture where the learnings are happening so quickly that it might make things a little bit better for people to understand in the long term, because we're early on into this. Am I summing that up correctly?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, for those online. Yeah, great, thank you. All right, so the pipeline, which many of you know, data collection. Who loves data collection in the room, huh? Oh. So, thank you for coming. So whose voices, accents, and emergencies are even in that set? Labeling, who decides what counts as distress and normal or typical? I don't like the word normal. Training, the system learns patterns from available data. Underrepresented people or context mean a less reliable performance. Validation, tested against a quiet studio or in a parking garage under stress. Deployment, the gap between it worked in testing and it worked for this person right now. Okay. So my early finding is, and needs further investigation, is this happens quietly every day, routing your own notes through AI before sharing them, not because they need summarizing, but because that's become the default. The output misses nuance. Fixing it means revising a prompt instead of noticing you're doing this at all.
Do you mean when you enter text into an LLM, or do you mean like thinking?
It could be either. So one number hides everything. Word error rate treats a mispronounced word and a fully invented sentence as the same kind of error. So I want to talk about checklist versus judgment. The EU AI Act means that you need to document your data, assess your risk, prove representativeness, pass it, and a system can still fabricate sentences. The checklist never asked if the output was true. Okay, the same happens with accessibility. You could put something through, say, did we meet all the web content accessibility guidelines? Yes, you did, but is it usable? No, it's not, right? The same kind of thing could happen. The UK has no equivalent checklist to the EU AI Act. Instead, they have 5 principles: safety, transparency, fairness, accountability, and the right to challenge a decision. No checklist means no shortcut. Which regulator would actually care about this? So for those in the room who are doing research, no one cares until they do, right? Because if it is something that is industry specific, and if it is something that is impactful, then they will care. Then they will care. If you were working on something and then all of a sudden people in finance could use it, they would care then.
Like they don't care if you sample a big size unless your sample is better.
Correct. Yes.
In the UK, there's recently this sort of concept of responsible research and innovation, and many people here in the room will be familiar with that. So which is sort of kind of like an initiative for people to start thinking about the potential implications of the research further down the line in other sectors, in other fields, as well as biases and so on. So there is some sort of process for research.
Yeah.
Even though it might not be a checklist per se, at least it gets people to think. I don't know if this is
Ish. Yeah. I mean, in the US, obviously you have to, and with here, like you have to go through the IRB process if you're doing any sort of research, especially with human subjects.
IRB is mostly operational, right? I mean, it's just about experiments with humans or animals.
That and also risk, right? The risks that are associated with the project. But whether you're dealing with human or not, you still have to do any sort of research, especially grant stuff. You have to do the IRB. Yeah. Okay. So this is meant for a little brief discussion with each other. Yeah. Can you give me a count to 5? This is what I do in my classes. Yeah. Let's start in the back here. You're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. You're 1. Just the number. Give me the number. I just want everybody to do a count because I'm going to put all the 1s together, all the 2s together. You get what I'm saying?
I just want to mention that there is an organization in NYU right now, a research lab is doing exactly this, and getting a sort of benchmark for trustworthiness.
Okay, great. But I don't want to hear about that now because I'm running out of time. I need 1. 3. No. 1. 1. You're 1.
2.
Okay, everybody who's a 1, get together. Everybody who's a 2, get together. Everybody who's a 3, get together. Everybody who's a 4, 5.
3.
Okay. So for every group, if you could just give me one or two things in your brief discussion. You have 5 minutes. I want 1 or 2 things from each group in the 5 minutes that you have. Thank you. Okay. And for the folks online, maybe you could put something in the chat around this area, and maybe other people can share. Okay, 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Okay, come up with your 1 or 2 things I'm going to have you share. Yeah. Well, you should stay in your group for your share. Okay, everybody? All right. So let's hear from this group, maybe 1 or 2 things in your field or organization. Who decides whether an AI tool is trustworthy enough to use? Here.
No one.
Okay, no one. You. Okay, great. Yeah.
Which is that we are both working in contexts which are sort of by design.
Okay, so this first group is avoiding the use of AI, so there's nobody. Sort of. All right, what about over here?
Our IT department decides whether AI tools can be secure and private.
Okay.
Not making decisions about trustworthiness.
Okay, so the AI department decides what you can use, but the IT department decides what you can use, but they don't determine trustworthiness. Okay, great. Yeah, Keith.
In the organisation I work for, I actually base their decision on which AI will use based on security and intellectual property.
Okay, so based on security and intellectual property, your yeah. Okay, co-pilot. All right, over here.
Yeah, I think a mixture. So mainly it's up to us. No one's told us what we want to use. But one organisation I work for does tell you what to use. Not sure how they decided on it, but we have one.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, on that it's that maybe in terms of like trustworthiness, that's something that at least in my environment it's like up to the user. So
Okay.
So
trustworthy is up to the user, right? And then for the other person said their organization determines what they can use. Okay, here.
We said similarly, no one really decides what's trustworthy. Also does not mean, personally, I trust anything, does not mean I don't use it.
Okay.
But always with the suspicious eye of this probably can be wrong, but might as well see what it says.
Okay, so for this group, no one really oversees it. One person in the group says, I don't really trust anything, but I still continue to use these things. So yeah, all right, and here?
You had an interesting one. Well, actually, yeah, exactly today I got an email from university from one of my vice rectors actually stating me. So the answer to your question is my organization is exactly this guy.
Okay.
Who's supposed to decide everything.
You are the decision maker.
No, this guy.
Oh, this other guy. Okay.
This other guy.
Okay. Okay, interesting. All right, everyone can go have a seat. Thank you. Thank you for your participation. All right, so I'm going to close out because you all have been here long enough. But when we look at this overall presentation, 3 failures, 1 problem, a scream it couldn't tell apart, party or emergency, a voice it couldn't recognize no matter who was speaking, an answer that sounded right but doesn't. We are living through the bystander effect right now, in my opinion. Not strangers ignoring a stranger on the street, but researchers and developers deciding every day what data makes it in and what gets left out. So my early finding is that several respondents named the capacity to connect knowledge across disciplines, biology and music, math and patterns, as the dimension of judgment they'd most want protected from automation. So 1 metaphor, 3 images. An elevator can only go where it's built to go. A ramp added after the building is already built is still a building that wasn't designed for everyone. A train can only go where the tracks are laid. AI systems are the same. They can only take you where their design already allows. So 73% versus 23%. Share of AI experts versus the public who expect AI to have a positive impact on how people do their jobs, a 50-point gap. The question isn't whether AI can hear better someday. It's whether we lay the tracks, build the ramp to reach the people the current ones don't. This includes people with disabilities. This includes people of different cultures than your own. So stay in the conversation. I was gonna have a piece of paper here, but I don't. Forgot about that. But I am researching how organizations think about voice and human judgment in AI. And if you are interested in connecting, we can talk. And thank you. Thank you all for being online. And thank you for being here in person, listening to me on a Friday afternoon. You are heroes. So,